A lot of people resist this. Darn, I was really loving the way things were and don't change. Like every time Facebook comes out with a new layout, there are some people that get upset when apps change. And so, why did they change it? So some people would still like to have Facebook look like it did in 2007.
Oh, that would be me.
Yeah.
I would be like the master of that game.
So the title of this one is Everything is Temporary. And when we do these things, like sometimes in my affirmation videos, I have them all scripted out. I type it out and maybe have some bullet points. So some are scripted, but sometimes I just like to do spontaneous things. All we have is that title.
All we have is that title.
We have no idea what's going to come out of our mouths about this topic because we haven't discussed it. We didn't go over, what are you going to say? No. We just said, you want to talk about that? Boom. Here we are.
Here we are.
Spontaneous.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is temporary. What does that mean to you, Buti?
Well, it means that we're living in a world that's always changing in every way. Look at even like trees growing, right? That's temporary. Their state of growth, right, is temporary. They're going to grow into large trees, and then they never stop growing. So everything is always moving. It's always changing. Also, too, like, our experiences are temporary. Like right now, we're in a temporary home, right? This is a house that we're staying at, but it's temporary. We have tomorrow here, but then it's going to change. So everything is always changing. And so change is a part of life, and it is the cycle of life. And what we try to do, I think where we get really messed up is we try to figure it out, or we try to plan for it, or we try to control it or manipulate it, but we just have no idea. And recently my brother passed away, and we can look at our experience here on this planet as a temporary experience. We're only here for a short period of time, so our lives are temporary. This moment is temporary. We move from one moment to the next. Relationships are temporary. When I was 20 years old, I had a lot of relationships that I'm not in those relationships at all anymore, and so things are constantly moving. Things are constantly changing. Nothing is permanent. And that we're living in a world of, like, I wouldn't say random, because I do believe that we have some control over our experience of what is occurring in our life. But I think that when we are open to the temporary and the changes and like just allowing those things to happen, then we're not in resistance to the natural cycle of life, which is everything is temporary, right? Everything is temporary.
Isn't there a saying, something like the only thing you can count on is change, or I forgot the actual wording of it, but basically it's talking about the only consistent thing you can definitely count on is that things are going to change. However, I think there are two sides of this, because we all strive to have consistency in our lives, and quite often we can't establish those things. I'm going to come back to that, but it's knowing that jobs, your physical, your state of being, your mental
your
state of being, the people that your family is kind of set in stone biologically for the most part, but those people come and go in your lives, and they can leave through moving, they can leave through a disagreement, and they can leave through passing on, passing away. So a lot of people resist this. Darn, I was really loving the way things were and don't change. Like every time Facebook comes out with a new layout.
Facebook is temporary.
Yeah. So there are some people that get upset when apps change. And so, why did they change it? So some people would still like to have Facebook look like it did in 2007.
Oh, that would be me. I would be like the master of that game.
But you're always going to be frustrated if you resist the changes, especially if they're out of your control, like the weather or whatever.
Or Facebook.
Yeah, or Facebook. They're totally out of your control because you don't run the monopoly or whatever. So you have to be flexible. That's what I love about, some of you may know that I teach and perform improv comedy, and that is the art of being comfortable with uncertainty. You never know what's going to come out in a scene. But you have rules, you have frameworks, there are certain structures to improv that you learn when you learn it, or you take a class that actually make it. Those things are consistent. So there are some aspects of our lives that can be consistent. So the things that we have control over, like maybe our daily habits, maybe one way that you have a rock solid consistent thing is you have a morning practice where you get up and you maybe have a cup of tea and you meditate, you journal, whatever that is for you. You exercise. So that's one way to get stability in your life. And some people stick to that routine no matter where they are. Even when they travel, they're committed to that. So you can. Yeah, no, we don't necessarily. But
I don't know how to do it.
so there's ways that you can add certainty to your life. And there's one more thing. I think I've heard this from Tony Robbins more than anything, but he said there's two things that drive people, and they're opposing, but they go together, and that's certainty and uncertainty. So human beings, we need a certain amount of certainty. We need to know that when we get up in the morning, or when we walk across the floor, it's not going to cave in, that our car's going to start. So we crave certainty. If everything was all constantly in flow, we would go a little chaotic, and we'd be constantly going in survival mode. But if everything was exactly the same, our lives never changed, we would get bored.
How boring.
Yeah. And so we need some uncertainty to keep things fresh, to keep things exciting. We actually streamed live on YouTube this morning, and normally I have a pre-recorded little intro that I said, I forgot to load this in, and I said, I'm just going to play live. So I picked up my guitar. I've never done that before, and I said, I kind of like that. I might do that from now on. So sometimes the uncertainty can lead to new opportunities. So we need this balance of certainty and uncertainty, and you can, through the developing habits, create the certain aspects, but don't be so rigid with the things in life that change, right? You have to roll with it. Is there a certain level of acceptance?
Yes, a level of acceptance, especially when things change, especially like losing a job or anything like that, relationships, and just there's just a lot of changes that sometimes come unexpected to us, and they create a lot of upheaval in our lives, right? Those are the ones I'm talking about. So just in that, just knowing that there's change afoot, and it's really, you can really anticipate something really magical. Like you can begin to look for the magic of the moment, right? And oh my goodness.
I know, the magic of the moment for me is rolling with the bugs. Whatever these things are, they're flying around my head.
That want to come and suck our blood.
Yeah. And I'm not.
They want to suck Bob's blood.
They want to change my skin from being unblemished to having bug bites.
We're dealing with uncertainty.
There's definitely some uncertainty here. The longer we sit here, the more intense it gets. But I'm trying to roll. I'm trying to be positive. I'm keeping a smile on my face.
No. Yeah. And so, and so, how is it that we navigate through all of these experiences in a way that really empower us, And how do we look for the good, right? So one way, let's just go for mosquitoes for right now. So one way that you could look for the good in this whole thing is like, we're actual meals for these dudes.
I'm supplying them.
We're
sustenance.
It's like, come on over here, have a little snack,
They're just doing their thing.
They're just doing their thing. They're just trying to survive like all of us, right? So it's just like, how do we look at it? What are we thinking, right? And then, and then play with different ways of responding to things, like accepting it, like rather than rejecting it or being angry about it or whatever, or moving away from it. How do you accept it? How do you how do you learn to be in harmony with it? Being in harmony with nature right now. Here we're in an environment where nature is definitely extremely present. Not like in St. Louis, I have 226 houses, on a 3-acre lot, right? And so there's
it's a lot of tiny houses.
Lots of tiny houses, lots of people living all over the place, right? Yeah. And just a lot of, but here, nature is the predominant force, right? Not man. And so out here, we're visitors into this environment. And so it's a privilege to be here, right? And to deal with the unexpected, like mosquitoes wanting to fly into your eyeballs.
Actually, speaking of nature, there's a great point, because whenever I'm in doubt about how to live my life, quite often I look to nature, look at the infinite intelligence that creates life and creates world. How does it behave? Because there's something it knows that we don't. And nature's constantly changing. We may be here, and in the moment, these trees are all everything is solid. We don't see the grass growing and all that, but it is growing. It needs to be mowed or whatever if they want to have a lawn here. So this is in constant flux. There's always changes, the changing of the seasons, the growth, the expansion. And so think of yourself as you are an extension of that infinite intelligence that created you. And so live that way too. So be fluid, be like a plant, or be like a flower. And know that there's going to be growth, there's going to be decay at some time, there's going to be rebirth, right?
Yeah.
And so it's okay if you feel a little frustrated by changes, but have some grace and some ease. Give yourself a break and know that you can
make it through it.
Bounce through this and use the serenity prayer. If there's something that you can change, you have control over, exert whatever influence you feel is necessary. But many things that we get frustrated over are outside of our control. They're decisions made by other people or nature or whatever, and you have to accept those things with grace, with ease, and then how can you make lemons or lemonade out of those lemons, right?
Yeah, see me leaning into Bob right now because see if I'm over here?
Yeah. Got the hot spot in her forehead. So, again, we had no idea what was going to come out when we talked about everything is temporary, but we hope that we provided some food for thought.
Yeah.
So roll with the changes. I think that's a song by REO Speedwagon.
Oh, wow. You're totally
roll
dating yourself.
with the changes. Never mind. I don't have the guitar with me, so this is a non-musical video.
This is a non-musical video, Bob. All
so
right.
just be open. All right? Know that an uncertainty, that change is good for you. It adds spice to life. And so when those changes come up, go, oh boy, here's an opportunity for me to do something new. Right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so do that.
All right.
Thanks for listening. Have an awesome day. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think about this whole topic about everything being temporary. We'd love to know what you think.
All right. Yes, we would.
All right, see you soon. All right,
Take
bye
care.
for now. So long.